Situated between Canada's largest city, Toronto, and its neighbor to the southwest, Detroit, Michigan, lies the city of London, Ontario, where an average businessman wakes up to the daily task of earning a living within the town he has been born and raised. But when the weekend comes along, this man's desires seem to overtake the business world. His ambitions shift into high gear behind the wheel of a stock car.
This circuit is second to none. General Motors' involvement with this GM Motorsport series and the TV networks coming to see us, I think everybody's going to really enjoy the racing and the caliber of the racing. The best in North America as far as Canada and the United States is here today, and representing Quebec we have some of the old heroes as well, and I think we're going to have a really good show.
Northwest of Montreal lies a picturesque tourist area on the beautiful Lac Saint-Jean. On the southwest tip of the lake is a French-speaking community of St-Felicien, known for its world-class zoo and antique automobile museum. It's normally a quiet little town, but now with some help from the Quebec Ministry of Tourism, today St-Felicien wakes up to the roar of American-Canadian stock car racing, the 11th stop on the ACT Tour and the 5th Canadian event in the GM Motorsport National Stock Car Series. It's an absolutely perfect day for racing, a full house for the Hotel du Jardin Monza 300. Good afternoon, I'm Joe Tilley. The ACT Tour began in 1979. 64 drivers competed for $207,000 in total prize money. This year, over 200 drivers are expected to take part in the 23 race series with a total prize fund of $1.5 million. The GM Motorsport Series involves only the 10 Canadian stops on the tour with a total prize package of $600,000. The drivers range from all over Canada and the northeastern United States. The competition is very intense. Heading into today's 5th event of the GM Motorsport Series, Oakville's Junior Hanley has a 20-point lead over Russ Erlin of London, Ontario. Joining me now is veteran stock car announcer Dave Moody. Dave, we've got an interesting format for today's race.
Well, Joe, it's quite possibly the most interesting format in all of motorsports. 3 different segments of 50, 100, and 150 laps. And only in the first race will the fast cars be at the front of the field. In the other 2, they'll have to race from the rear. A couple of the drivers to watch in this, of course, the GM Series point leader, Junior Hanley of Oakville, Ontario, one of the great racing veterans. But another person to keep an eye on, one of the young guns of the Coors Tour, young Ricky Craven from Gardner, Maine. He sits on the pole this afternoon after blistering this track in time trials.
Joining us today in the pits is George Como. George has more on the race.
The unique format of this St-Felicien event creates some unique problems for the people down here on pit road. With only about 20 minutes between segments, that's all the time they have to make any necessary adjustments in their automobiles. There's always pressure on down here, but today that pressure will be magnified.
Here's a look at the starting grid for this first race, a 50-lapper in the Monza-style event. In row 1, it was Rick Craven and Dave Dion.
Row number 2, Randy McDonald and Jean-Paul Cabana.
In row 3, London's Russ Erlin and Gord Bennett.
Row number 4, 5-time champion Robbie Crouch and Junior Hanley.
In row 5, Jeff Stevens and Kevin LePage.
Row number 6, Derek Lynch and the veteran Ralph Nason.
And there's a look at the rest of the field for the Hotel du Jardin Monza 300.
As they came down for the opening green flag, Ricky Craven of Gardner, Maine, and the white 09 E.J. Prescott Buick took the lead on the inside lane as they headed for turn number 1. Craven led the way over Jean-Paul Cabana and Randy McDonald, but McDonald, who started in the number 3 post position, was soon on pit road with mechanical problems that ruined his hopes of winning segment number 1.
Meanwhile, Craven continued to hold the lead, but he was feeling lots of pressure from Jean-Paul Cabana.
On the inside, Cabana in the blue number 5A gets the whole shot. shot on Ricky Craven, takes the lead as they head for the backstretch tri-oval. Jean-Paul Cabana inherits the lead. He held on the rest of the way to pick up the checkered flag, and 1 point for a very popular win in heat number 1.
Some disappointments. Russ Erlin finished 26. Randy McDonald was dead last. That makes it difficult for them to catch up in the Monza-style series.
Results of the first segment. Quebec, Jean-Paul Cabana, the winner in his Oldsmobile. Maine's Ricky Craven finished up in second. New Hampshire's Dave Dion. Gord Bennett of Ontario, and Maine's Jeff Stevens, the top 5.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How much does it mean winning the first segment in the 3 segment? You've run these before at Thunder Road.
Yeah, you know, that's very hard. That's what I said a couple of words before, you know. You need to be concentrated all the time. As soon you lost to concentrate, I think Ricky, he lost that, and he was at the second place a few seconds. You need concentrate for the beginning and to the end of the race. That's very important. But the track is so fast. You can imagine how fast. It's faster. It's not faster by the speed, but the wall, you know, comes so fast on your ice. You can imagine how many feet you are now. And that's for the last about 10 years, you know, I never be concentrate like that for one race.
By virtue of his last place finish in the first race, Randy McDonald had the pole for race number 2 in the inverted grid.
McDonald from Oshawa, Ontario, in that red, white, and blue Buick number 01, took the lead at the drop of the green flag on the inside line in turn 1. He was followed through by the number 9 Chevrolet Camaro of Yvon Bedard. McDonald and Bedard set a fast pace in the early going. The 55 of Dave Lebrecq running third. Then as they came down on lap number 2, trouble in the first corner. The number 88 of Richard Thibodeau gets sideways in the corner. Field jumps on the binders, and there's a multi-car pileup in turn number 1.
Jean-Paul Cabana, first race winner, is way back at the pack, but he does some serious driving to get up near the front. Meanwhile, it's Russ Erlin on Randy McDonald's tail as they hit here in corner number 1.
Randy McDonald in the 01, Russ Erlin in car number 8. Erlin stayed right on his tail through the first half of the race, and in the end, it was the lap traffic that made the difference in the final finish of the second race. McDonald tried to go underneath the number 80 of Donald Theege, can't find room to race. Erlin runs up alongside, passes him on the outside, and takes the lead in segment number 2.
After giving up the lead, Randy McDonald began to slow down. He eventually dropped out of the race with mechanical problems. A restart a few laps later.
Lap number 78 restart with Erlin in the lead. Keep an eye on the outside lane as they take the green and head for turn number 1. 5-time Tour champion Robbie Crouch gets into the back end of another car, spins and triggers a massive pileup in turn number 1. The number 65 of Blair Bassett, Dan Beatty's 53, and Derek Lynch also involved.
Meanwhile, Jean-Paul Cabana continued to pressure Russ Erlin in the number 8 car. Jean-Paul Cabana kept on his trail, but Erlin was able to hold him off to take the checkered flag.
Russ Erlin picks up 1 point for the victory in segment number 2. Pulls himself a little bit closer to the front of the pack. Certainly a much better finish than his disappointing first race 26th place due to a blown right rear tire. Russ Erlin picking up the checkered flag after winning the second segment of the Hotel du Jardin Monza 300.
So the results of race 2, Erlin, Cabana, Jeff Stevens, Ralph Nason, and Leo Poirier.
You felt the old man pushing you a little bit at the end?
Well, you know, on that restart with 25 laps to go, when John Paul moved up beside me, I was keeping my eye on him. He was moving up steadily, and boy, he was the last guy I wanted to see starting the outside of me. As far as I was concerned, the outside groove was the fastest groove, and I think that's where I made up all my time. I'm just glad John Paul drove a real clean race and didn't try to touch, and I got to compliment him for running a clean race. I really enjoyed this racetrack.
The standings after 2 segments, Jean-Paul Cabana in his Oldsmobile with the lead, Jeff Stevens in a Buick running second, Dave Dion's Ford, Ralph Nason in a Dodge Daytona, and Kevin LePage. In a moment, the final segment, they'll decide it all in the Monza 300. They're bent, they're battered, they're bruised, but the crews have got them patched back together, and we're ready to go. The third and final segment of the Hotel du Jardin Monza 300, 150 laps to decide the overall champion. It'll be Rick Craven on the point along with Greg Bailey.
And there's the green flag to start our final segment. It's Rick Craven, the 09 car, on the pole. Beside him, Greg Bailey, number 75. He's already dropped back. Moving up is Richard Thibodeau in the number 88 car. Craven, now we're inside the car of Jean-Paul Cabana, who's got a long way to go.
Cabana has really got his work cut out for him here, coming from the rear of the field with Jeff Stevens, Dave Dion, and Ralph Nason all in front of him trying to steal the win. Cabana, 55 years of age, running 150 laps on a very tough racetrack. But don't worry about JP. He can still out-arm wrestle about half the kids on this racetrack.
And Jean-Paul Cabana is definitely a crowd favorite here at St-Felicien. Right now, there are our leaders. Rick Craven right now leads this race over Richard Thibodeau. Gord Bennett, the number 67 car, is in third spot, and he's followed by Claude Leclerc as Craven tries to open up a little bit of a gap here over Thibodeau.
Craven, despite missing a lot of the body work, really setting a fast pace here. Cabana, coming out of the back of the pack, is trying to juggle the numbers in his head right now. He's got a 5-point lead over Jeff Stevens in the overall. And what that means in this third segment, if Cabana finishes within 4 spots of Stevens, there's virtually no way he can lose the overall standings.
Providing, of course, that Dave Dion, Ralph Nason, and Kevin LePage don't finish way up there well ahead of those two drivers.
So Jean-Paul Cabana's just got to keep his eyes open and keep those closest pursuers in sight.
Meanwhile, look at the gap that Rick Craven has opened up over Richard Thibodeau now. And Gord Bennett is really pressuring Thibodeau for second spot. Gord Bennett in the number 67 car trying to move on the inside, and Thibodeau holds him off, at least at this point.
That's a good battle. Three-way battle. Richard Thibodeau, Gord Bennett, the number 11 of Claude Leclerc looking for room back there. Gordy Bennett is really putting on the pressure.
Bennett now looking for a spot to get by, and Thibodeau goes pretty high in corner number 1. Bennett tries to sneak through, but Thibodeau shuts the door.
Tough to run down low on the inside of that first corner and keep your momentum up heading for the tri-oval. Gord Bennett had the door wide open that time, but couldn't get through.
Bennett trying again now, heading into the straightaway, and Bennett's going to go into, and he misses it again. Thibodeau holding him off for second spot. Meanwhile, sitting back and forth is Claude Leclerc, hoping that one of those makes a mistake and he'll sneak by both of them.
Three very different race drivers battling for position. Richard Thibodeau, a part-time driver on the Coors Tour, having by far his best run of the season, running up in the second spot. Right behind him, Gord Bennett, one of the rookie drivers on the tour, a real up-and-coming hard charger, and he's giving Thibodeau all kinds of work in that number 3 spot.
Here you can see Rick Craven passing a lot of the slower traffic. He's trying to open up a big lead over Richard Thibodeau. Now Gord Bennett dives inside, and he gets past Thibodeau, and there goes Claude Leclerc past Thibodeau as well.
A great move that time. Thibodeau got high in turn number 1, and that's no man's land. He dropped backwards and gave up 2 spots. Craven with the big lead, but now Gord Bennett beginning to close it up on him.
There's the number 11 car of Claude Leclerc in third, and it's Richard Thibodeau back and forth. He's dropped well off the pace. Rick Craven has really opened up a good-sized lead over Gord Bennett, the rookie, and in third spot, it's Leclerc, the number 11 car.
Rick Craven's number 09 doesn't look like a whole lot like right now, Joe, but he is running strong at the front of the pack. Nobody's been able to close the ground on him at this point. Craven out in front and having his own way in segment number 3.
Craven had the pole for the first race of the day, but he ran into some trouble in race number 1. And there we go back to the pack. Now we see Jean-Paul Cabana moving up through the field. Right behind him, Junior Hanley, and he's lost half of his car.
Junior Hanley's had a tough day today, minus the entire fiberglass front end on car number 72. Right in front of Cabana, the 29 of Dave Dion. Dion came into this third segment 7 points behind Cabana. He's going to need to pick up more ground. There's trouble in turn 1.
That's number 44, Jeff Stevens, with his nose into the wall, and Daniel Wolf turned the other way, and the yellow caution flag comes out.
Daniel Wolf's car number 17 facing the wrong way in turn number 1. Let's take a look on replay. There's Stevens already sideways at the bottom of the track. Daniel Wolf with a nice piece of driving either had to spin the car or he would have hit Stevens.
He spun the car, and now we're forming for a restart here. It's Rick Craven, then Gord Bennett, Claude Leclerc, and Richard Thibodeau.
Field continuing under caution. Coming up through the gearbox on the accelerator, looking for green, and again, Craven is off and away.
Rick Craven had a pretty fair-sized lead before that yellow flag, and now he's trying to open up another one, but right on his tail is Claude Leclerc, who has moved past Gord Bennett into second spot. On board Jean-Paul Cabana's car, he's well back in the pack, and now Richard Thibodeau has also gotten past Gord Bennett to move into third spot. Thibodeau in third, it's Craven, then Leclerc, and Thibodeau. Bennett has dropped back into fourth.
Rick Craven showing the way, but Claude Leclerc this time staying in contact with the leader, actually gaining some ground down the back straightaway. Claude Leclerc trying to make a race out of this as they exit turn number 3.
Gord Bennett, I don't know what happened to him on the restart, but he's dropped well back now. It's a 3-car train at the front of the pack, and now there's a spin. It's number 35, Dick Belisle, and the yellow flag comes out again. Belisle is going to pull off the track.
I think Dick Belisle has got a flat right front tire. He brings it down onto pit road. The KP Enterprises team will go to work on that machine and try and get him back in the running. Rick Craven leads it. Claude Leclerc second, followed by Richard Thibodeau, Blair Bissett, and Gord Bennett.
Back at St-Felicien, 3 cars involved in that crash. Buzzy Bizanson, Dick Belisle, and series points leader Junior Hanley, who's done for the day.
One of those days, all kinds of problems out there.
Well, they started all the fast cars in the back with all that slower cars, and the slower cars are running bumper to bumper, and there's no place to go. And when you drive in the corner, somebody drives into you in back and pushes you into the guy in the front, so they ain't really too good at racing.
Was the new pavement part of the problem?
Not really, it's just the way they're lining the races up.
And as they push Junior Hanley's car off the track, we are ready for the restart.
Restart lineup being posted as Hanley's car goes back behind the wall. It's still Rick Craven on the point, Claude Leclerc, and Richard Thibodeau, and a new competitor at the front of the pack, Paul Richardson, in car number 54. He is well out of the running for the overall championship, but he is running strongly. Green flag is out. Craven has the lead as they race toward the tri-oval. Craven in the 09 Buick is your leader. Claude Leclerc in the Chevrolet running in second, and Paul Richardson, there's the 54, trying to rim ride on the outside of turn 3 and go for the 3rd spot.
Claude Leclerc, the 3-time Canadian national champion, having a good ride in the number 11 car, and this is his best race of the year so far.
No question about that, but Ricky Craven once again is pulling away in the 09. Craven the leader, 5 car lengths back now, Claude Leclerc. There's Jean-Paul Cabana, right behind him, Dave Dion. 2 of the front runners in the chase for the overall championship. Cabana trying to run down Ralph Nason, and Nason and his Dodge Daytona is the big story right now. He has broken away from Cabana and Dion and is making a run for the front of the pack. Craven the leader, Leclerc in second, Paul Richardson running third as they hit turn number 1. Then Richard Thibodeau, the 67 of Gord Bennett, Kevin LePage, and Nason in the number 10.
Jean-Paul Cabana in that number 5 blue Oldsmobile had a 5-point lead over Jeff Stevens when this race began. Stevens, of course, hurt his chances when he had a little run-in with the wall. He's at the back of the pack. He's got to make a big run.
Stevens is really going to have to hustle to get his way back up into contention. Ralph Nason is at the front. Jean-Paul Cabana and Dave Dion try to work their way back up and catch him. Leader Rick Craven still has it by 5 car lengths over Claude Leclerc and Paul Richardson. Richardson, in a borrowed ride this afternoon after wrecking his own car earlier today, is really putting on the pressure. His first time in that machine is closing in on Ricky Craven. There's Cabana in the 5A, still leading Dave Dion, but still trailing Ralph Nason. Cabana is not home free yet in this one.
Cabana looking for his first win of the season in his home province, and so far he's running tremendously well here today.
Rick Craven still at the front of the pack. Will put a lap on the number 77 Camaro of Jim Gallison. Right behind him comes Claude Leclerc and Paul Richardson in the 54 doing yeoman work in a borrowed ride this afternoon. He runs in the 3rd spot. Gord Bennett, the 67 Buick, running in 4th. There's Craven. You can see the damage on the front end of the E.J. Prescott machine, but it has not slowed Craven down here in segment number 3. He has led just about all the way with Claude Leclerc and Paul Richardson right behind him. Back in car with Jean-Paul Cabana. And oh, we've got trouble.
A huge pile up on the back straightaway.
A multi-car confrontation on the back chute. There's the 54 of Paul Richardson. He was involved. The 93 Tom Kenyon, 28 Leo Poirier, Yvonne Bedard in the 9. A multi-car confrontation. I think somebody may have grenaded a motor in the fastest part of the track. Ralph Nason driving by in car number 10. He managed to avoid it. Caution flag is on the speedway. Let's go down to George Como, who's standing by in the pits of one of those cars involved, Jeff Stevens.
I know you've been talking to Jeffrey on the radio. What's the story? How bad is it, and is he done?
Yeah, we're all done. The motor let go in the car. It just blew off.
Is that what led to the whole thing, or did he get into something and hit something and then it let go?
I don't know. He didn't say. He just spun out, and I asked him what happened. He said the motor let go.
A tough break for Jeff Stevens as he gets pushed back to the garage, but he certainly was in contention until that smack-up.
Well, the only thing worse than wrecking a race car is wrecking a race car after blowing your motor. That's almost a complete rebuild for Jeff Stevens on the 44. That'll be the end of his afternoon as he gets the push back to the garage area. Field reforming for a restart here in the next lap or so. Leo Poirier bringing car number 28 back on pit road. He was involved in that confrontation on the back chute. You can see heavy fiberglass damage on the right-hand side of the Autodrome Buick. Car number 28, Leo Poirier from Cumberland, Ontario. His crew will go to work, and we've had an incident under yellow. Dick Belisle's car number 35 apparently has been involved in a collision under the caution flag. Severe damage on the left front corner.
Let's have a look at the slow motion replay. Belisle is the 6th car back on the outside, and he gets into the back end of somebody, and he tears his car out.
Well, that's a tough break for Dick Belisle, running slowly under caution. They played a little bit of bumper tag. His car gets turned around, and very unusual incident at the top of turn number 1. Dick Belisle in car number 35 is going to be out for the remainder of the afternoon.
So the standings in race number 3 so far, it is Rick Craven, then Claude Leclerc, Ralph Nason, Kevin LePage, and Jean-Paul Cabana in 5th.
Cabana's in a good spot right now, Joe. He just has to keep the leaders in sight, and he's got a pretty good shot at the overall title. Green flag is out. Craven and Claude Leclerc right behind Ralph Nason. Nason in the number 10 goes underneath Claude Leclerc, and Ralph Nason, the 30-year racing veteran from Unity, Maine, now up to the number 2 spot. Down the back straightaway, heading for turn number 3. Craven in the 09. Nason going for the lead on the inside. Ralph Nason making a great charge. They bump in turn 1, and Ralph Nason is going to come out of it with the lead. Craven falling back to 2nd on the inside. A spectacular move by Ralph Nason in car number 10.
Ralph Nason starting off in 3rd on the restart, but he snuck inside of Claude Leclerc, and then he got by Rick Craven, and now he finds himself in the lead. It looks like he's opening up that lead right now.
No question about it. Nason is pulling away from the pack. Craven back in 2nd, Claude Leclerc 3rd, and the man to watch now, Jean-Paul Cabana, is back in the number 5 position. Cabana has only got a spot or 2 to give up. If he stays where he is, he's in good shape, but he cannot afford to lose any ground here.
Here's a look at that move once again by Ralph Nason. First he gets by Claude Leclerc, who is wide, and then he zooms by Rick Craven on the inside.
Well, Rick Craven gave him a big hole in turn number 1, and Ralph Nason, he's been racing long enough, he's not going to let an opportunity like that go by. Nason in the number 10 is the leader. Rick Craven in the 09 Buick not letting him get away. He's right on his back bumper in the 2nd spot. 3rd right now is the number 11 of Claude Leclerc, then Kevin LePage, and Jean-Paul Cabana still keeping the lead in sight. Ralph Nason has done all he can do at this point. He's the leader. You can't get much further up than that. It's all up to Cabana. If he can hold on to that spot, it may be his. Craven going to the outside, wants the lead back in turn 1, can't get it. Nason holds on downstairs. Here's Craven again to the inside. Nason shuts him off through the tri-oval. Spectacular racing. Ralph Nason and Rick Craven going at it for the lead.
Rick Craven, no interest in running 2nd. He wants to get that lead back, but now Nason has the inside, and he extends that lead.
Ralph Nason holding on to that inside groove. That's the place to be, the fast way around this racetrack. Craven staying right on his back bumper in 2nd. A car length back to the number 11 Claude Leclerc, the white, blue, and yellow Chevrolet. Back markers working across the start-finish line, and here come the heavy hitters. Nason, Craven, Leclerc, LePage, Cabana, Erlin, and Randy McDonald, all running single file as they hit the tri-oval.
And right behind McDonald right now is Dave Dion. He came into this 3rd and final race in 3rd spot, 7 points back of Jean-Paul Cabana, and he's still got a shot at it.
Dion is really going to have to turn up the wick, though. He is running behind the 2 men that he has to beat, Jean-Paul Cabana and Ralph Nason. And at this point, Nason looks like he's going to be a tough guy to dislodge from the lead. Nason in the number 10 shows the way. Cross the start-finish line one more time. 3 car lengths in hand over Ricky Craven in the 09. Then it continues to be Claude Leclerc in 3rd. Here's Craven going down to the inside. Ricky Craven pulling even. Nason uses the lap car of Reno Blaze, the number 56, and holds off Craven. Ricky Craven was oh so close to having the lead back on the inside, but Ralph Nason kept his head, used the lap car as a roadblock, and he'll hang on to the lead one more time. Ralph Nason through the tri-oval in car number 10. Craven still running in 2nd. There's Claude Leclerc in 3rd. Kevin LePage, Cabana, Erlin, McDonald, and Dave Dion. That lead pack still holding single file with the exception of Ricky Craven, who does not like that runner-up position. He continues to work on Nason in the tri-oval.
These 2 cars moving ahead of the rest of the pack as Craven tries once again to get inside, but he can't do it. Ralph Nason doing a good job of holding his line.
Ralph Nason in the Dodge Daytona, Rick Craven in a Buick Regal, a Chevrolet Camaro for Claude Leclerc. 3 different makes of automobiles at the front of this Hotel du Jardin Monza 300. Final segment, and it's Ralph Nason. He has really taken the bull by the horns here. He is doing all he can do to get himself that overall championship. But Jean-Paul Cabana, there he is in the blue and white Oldsmobile number 5A, just riding around back there in the number 5 spot, knowing that if he holds his position, things have got to go his way.
Ralph Nason, the owner of Unity Raceway in Unity, Maine. That's where Rick Craven learned how to drive. So what we got here is a case of the teacher trying to hold off the student. Right now, the student's giving him all he can handle.
Boy, he sure is, and they bump through the tri-oval. Craven in the 09 trying to go underneath his mentor, Ralph Nason, in car number 8. But the old veteran holds him off one more time around. Nason in the 10, Craven in the 09, putting on a great show for this capacity crowd at the Autodrome St-Felicien. Rolling through the tri-oval one more time. It is a 2-car breakaway at the front of the pack. Ralph Nason putting a lap on some of the slower machinery once again. Rick Craven in second, and you just catch a glimpse. There's Claude Leclerc in the number 3 spot. We've got a caution flag. Caution flag is on the speedway, and the field will back down. We got a piece of fiberglass down on the racetrack off one of these machines, and that'll bring out the yellow.
And as we take a break in the action, let's have a look at the Molson Export mid-race standings. It's Ralph Nason in the lone Dodge in front, followed by Rick Craven in a Buick, Claude Leclerc in a Chevrolet, Kevin LePage in the Ford, and Jean-Paul Cabana in an Oldsmobile. We'll be back to St-Felicien right after this.
Back at the Hotel du Jardin Monza 300, while you are away, some dramatic development. Jean-Paul Cabana, the overall leader in this race, pulled up alongside the pace car as if to go on to pit road. The signal was given that the race was going back to green next lap. Cabana elected to remain on the speedway. Now, under ACT rules, once he pulled up on the pace car, he is required to go on pit road. So Cabana now is being black flagged and being sent down pit road. The PP Electric crew will take a look at that car, see what the problem is, and hopefully get Cabana back out. But even if he does return, it'll be at the tail end of the field. Cabana is on pit road. They're taking a look at the left rear tire on car number 5A. Cabana's crew doing their work, and he is away. Cabana now will rejoin the field at the tail end, but Joe, that puts Ralph Nason in the driver's seat.
It certainly does. Ralph Nason is in front of the pack here on the race start. Jean-Paul Cabana has a lot of traffic to go through before he can catch Ralph Nason in the overall championship. He's already doing some of it right now.
Cabana picks up one car, the 53 of Dan Beatty. Right in front of him, Leo Poirier, but Cabana now is really behind the 8 ball. He's going to have to make a spectacular comeback to have any hope of the overall championship. Nason is the leader. Claude Leclerc has ducked underneath Ricky Craven to take over the second spot, and we've got a battle going on for the number 3 position. Russ Erlin moves underneath and takes over the 3rd spot. Right behind him, Randy McDonald. Rick Craven, who started on the outside pole, has gone all the way back to the number 5 position.
Russ Erlin and Randy McDonald both had terrible results in the first race here today, but Erlin, with a good result here today, could move ahead of Junior Hanley into the overall points lead in the GM Motorsport Series.
There's Cabana in the blue and white number 5A, moving to the outside of Barney McRae in car number 4. Cabana still has a long way to go and lots of lap traffic between him and the leader, Ralph Nason. Nason in car number 10 had to be the darkest of dark horses coming into this 3rd and final segment. He was a full 8 spots behind Jean-Paul Cabana in the overall, but he has had a spectacular race coming from the back of the pack, leading almost since the halfway point of this race, and Ralph Nason now has begun to pull away. He's got 2 car lengths on Claude Leclerc, Russ Erlin, and Randy McDonald.
A tremendous race for Ralph Nason. If he can stay on the track and keep his lead, he'll win it.
Russ Erlin going down to the inside, a challenge for second. Randy McDonald slams the door on him as they go through the tri-oval. There's Nason, Claude Leclerc, and Russ Erlin. Erlin again will try and go down on the inside as they hit turn number 1. No room that time. Leclerc right on the bottom of the racetrack. Ralph Nason, the leader. Erlin again to the inside. Again can't make it stick down low as Claude Leclerc, with the momentum off the tri-oval, holds on to the 2nd spot. The man on the move now is Erlin. Again to the inside, coming off turn number 3. Again, Claude Leclerc has the horsepower to hold him off.
Leclerc keeps on giving him a lot of room on the inside, but he keeps shutting the door on Russ Erlin, and Randy McDonald also looking looking for a spot on the inside.
Well, Claude Leclerc is definitely running on old tires, fighting a push right now. That car does not want to turn left for him. Here's Erlin again trying to get inside. But once again, Claude Leclerc, when he lacks in handling, he is making up for under the hood as he holds off Russ Erlin. Once again, here's that challenge as they went through the tri-oval. Erlin in the white and orange, car number 8, gets almost alongside Claude Leclerc, but Leclerc with the high line pinches him off, forces Erlin to lift, and Claude Leclerc, at least for the moment, holds on to second place.
Meanwhile, Ralph Nason continues to extend his lead over Claude Leclerc, Russ Erlin, and now Randy McDonald in 4th spot.
Oh,
Ralph Nason is off the track.
Oh, no, Nason, who had been leading the race, has demolished his machine on the wall. Another dramatic turn of events as Ralph Nason absolutely slams the outside retaining wall. On instant replay, you can see the front end of Nason's car absolutely destroyed as he slides backwards up on the top of the racetrack. What a heartbreaker for Ralph Nason in car number 10. It looked like he was on his way to an easy victory in the overall standings.
Ralph Nason looked to have it wrapped up. He's out of the race now. That gives the lead to Claude Leclerc. Russ Erlin now is in 2nd spot. Randy McDonald's in 3rd. Then it's Dave Dion and Bill Zardo.
Field forming up for a restart. Claude Leclerc and Russ Erlin, Randy McDonald, and Dave Dion, who now assumes the overall point lead. Dion came in 7 points behind Jean-Paul Cabana. Cabana still struggling to make his way from the back of the pack. Here's the battle for the lead. Russ Erlin trying to do it the hard way on the high side of the racetrack. He's halfway up on Leclerc. They rub on each other. Leclerc blasts underneath him, holds onto the lead, and Randy McDonald will try and go underneath Erlin for 2nd.
Erlin is able to hold off McDonald, and he's trying to put a move again on Claude Leclerc.
Claude Leclerc, Russ Erlin, and Randy McDonald right behind them. The green and silver Camaro of Bill Zardo. Behind Zardo, the overall leader, Dave Dion, but still coming from the pack, trying to make an amazing comeback, Jean-Paul Cabana. Let's take a look at that last attempted pass by Erlin. Look at those cars lean on each other. Claude Leclerc goes high to the middle of the racetrack. Car almost breaks away from him. He gathers it up, and that allowed McDonald to challenge on the inside. Now Erlin has the hole shot in turn number 1. Russ Erlin goes to the lead. McDonald in the 01 Buick goes underneath for 2nd place.
Claude Leclerc lets both drivers by, and now it's Russ Erlin in the lead here. Randy McDonald following him. Back at St-Felicien, Russ Erlin, our race leader, tries to go inside on Richard Thibodeau, but doesn't quite make it.
That enabled Randy McDonald in the 01 to pull right up behind Erlin once again. Here's Erlin going to the inside of Thibodeau one more time at the start-finish line. McDonald goes underneath Erlin. Side by side, a battle for the lead. Erlin follows Thibodeau around the slower car and holds onto the spot. A close call for Russ Erlin here, Joe, as he is right down in the grass. The car almost came around sideways, but Erlin made a great save to hold on to the lead.
Erlin pulled out and picked the right car to follow.
Well, Russ Erlin now has got a bit of clear racetrack in front of him. He continues to lead over Randy McDonald. There's the 88 of Richard Thibodeau, still in front of McDonald. Thibodeau a lap down. Erlin going around the high side of the number 75 Ford of Greg Bailey. Erlin goes a little bit high in turn 3, has to gather it up again. Greg Bailey in the 75, the red number 53 of Dan Beatty. Again, Erlin has problems in the corner, and Randy McDonald is right on his back bumper one more time, looking for a mistake. Erlin to the high side of Dan Beatty in turn number 3. This time he holds the car down across the start-finish line. Erlin holds the lead and puts another lap on the board.
And right behind Randy McDonald is Claude Leclerc. He's also challenging here for the lead. McDonald looking for a spot to pass the race leader, Russ Erlin.
Coming up on the lap car, the Jim Gallison machine on the inside of the turn. Russ Erlin continues to hold on. They go to the outside in turn number 1. Again, McDonald takes a little bit of a look downstairs. Can't hold the momentum, has to back off again. We've got a spin in turn 3. Barney McRae and his Chevrolet Camaro has spun down onto the inside of the infield.
McRae unable to get back on the track. Will go under yellow once again. Russ Erlin, our race leader. Earlier this week, we had a chance to meet him. Located on the outskirts of London, Ontario, and surrounded by farmers' fields is a small garage that sits largely unnoticed. Within these walls lies the expensive tools and toys of a professional stock car racer.
In order to be a stock car driver and to have a family also, we have to have a commitment from everybody. both my wife and my son. They both enjoy racing. We don't live for racing 24 hours a day, but it's a way for us to relax. It's something else to look forward to. It's something to spend our weekends at, and we still get our winters off. For my own view on driving a race car, I'm relaxed when I get in the seat. Working on the car, the preparation, and all the days before a special event seems to psych a person up, and it plays on them. It's hard on the family, the hours that you spend to prepare the car. But once you get in that seat, it's all over. Your preparation is done. Then Lady Luck plays the biggest part.
In 1988, Erlin won the coveted ACT Rookie of the Year award, as well as taking overall second place in the American-Canadian Tour. Erlin had the most top 10 finishes in 1988 with 17, and he won $63,000 in his first year on the tour.
The cost for 1 year racing, I have a budget of approximately $50,000, and that's over and above your initial investment. We have an initial investment of about $100,000, of which maybe, if you're lucky, 50% of it will come back when you sell the car, the truck, and the trailer at the end of the year. But everybody kicks in to make up that initial $50,000. And with a little bit of income from the races from time to time, and the way we've been doing this year, we've been doing excellent. And there has been some extra dollars coming in, so this will probably be the biggest year I've ever had.
They've got Barney McRae's car back off the track, and they're replacing that left rear tire.
We're set for a restart. It'll be Russ, Erlin, and Randy McDonald in row number 1. Claude Leclerc, the third-place driver, inside of row number 2. Green flag is out. We're racing. Erlin has the lead as they hit turn 1 side-by-side. Battle for second. Claude Leclerc goes underneath McDonald, and Leclerc comes back to the number 2 spot.
Claude Leclerc in the number 11 Chevrolet gets past Randy McDonald in the Buick. We've got Chevrolets running 1 and 2 now.
And Claude Leclerc wants a piece of the lead, comes out of 3, gets sideways, drops back momentarily. Russ Erlin is going to have his hands full here. Claude Leclerc and Randy McDonald running 2nd and 3rd. But right now, all eyes in the grandstand on the back of the pack, where Jean-Paul Cabana continues to fly from the rear of the field. He has pulled himself back into contention, but he needs some more spots to get himself up into the overall championship position.
Dave Dion driving 4th right now in this segment, and he is in 1st spot overall. Jean-Paul Cabana back in the pack. Kevin LePage now finds himself in 2nd spot, 6th in this segment.
Once again, Jean-Paul Cabana had 7 spots over Dion as they came into this final segment. Dion needs to beat Cabana by at least 6. Here's the in-car. J.P. Cabana, look out, a tangle in turn number 1, and Cabana is spinning. Rick Craven's car number 09 got tapped and went around, and Cabana is involved again. The 5A is back underway. He has it on the racetrack. He will not lose a lap. There's the 09 of Ricky Craven and one other car off over the bank as well. It's the Richard Thibodeau machine. Once again, the front end of the E.J. Prescott Buick of Ricky Craven all torn up in turn 1.
Rick Craven has had a rough day, but Jean-Paul Cabana, what a job to avoid that crash. Here it is again. There is Craven spinning into the wall, and Cabana manages to avoid it. What a job of driving by the veteran Jean-Paul Cabana.
Rick Craven either drove into turn 1 too hard or was bumped high on the racetrack. You can see Craven to the far right of the picture going way up to the top of the racetrack. Thibodeau in the 28 spinning as well. The minute Jean-Paul Cabana touched the brakes, the 5A goes around, and he goes on a wild slide for life down off the track. And you can see the other cars making their way past. A close call from Cabana. He comes out of it undamaged, but again, the 5A goes all the way to the back of the pack.
An incident that could have taken Jean-Paul Cabana out of the race. As it is, he'll go to the back, and he'll try to weave his way back through the traffic and into contention.
Well, you wonder how many lives this cat named Cabana has. He's come from the rear so many times already. Let's take another look at it. There's Craven sitting broadside on the track. Cabana somewhere out in the dust and dirt over the top of turn number 1 along with Richard Thibodeau. Now here's the smart move by Cabana. He fires that car, does a spinning 180, gets himself back underway before the field comes by, and he loses a lap. So Cabana, it could have been worse. He's only on the rear.
There's our standings in this segment. Russ Erlin, Claude Leclerc, Randy McDonald, Dave Dion, the overall leader, and Bill Zardo. We'll be back. The 1988 Molson Indy starting grid saw car number 9, Danny Sullivan, in his PC-17 Penske Chevrolet on the pole position. He would lead the race for the first 15 laps of this, the third annual Toronto Molson Indy. The day's first and only incident came in lap 16 as Kevin Colgan's number 11 car hit the wall in turn 2, resulting in a badly fractured left arm. Further down the track on the hairpin in turn 3, the lead is about to change on lap 16. Al Unser Jr. in his number 3 88C Stroh Chevrolet passes Sullivan and steals the lead. Sullivan was blocked by the number 14 black car of A.J. Foyt, who had moved in front to negotiate the turn. As Sullivan continued to chase the leader Unser, he exits the pits but crosses all 4 tires over the blend line when re-entering the racetrack. He received a stop-and-go penalty in the pits, losing any chance of catching Al Unser Jr. So, after 103 laps and 183 miles of Molson Indy history, Al Unser Jr. races his way to first place, with Danny Sullivan in second. Michael Andretti took third. Emerson Fittipaldi finished in fourth spot, and Bobby Rahal, the winner of the inaugural Molson Indy, finished in fifth. Back to St-Felicien, 7 laps to go. There's a Chevrolet Iraq-Said Camaro pace car leading Russ Erlin, and right beside him it's Claude Leclerc.
Third place automobile is Randy McDonald, and at the back of the pack is Cabana. He's got the simplest strategy in the world now. He is going to go full bore and try and pick off cars. Green flag is out. Erlin has the lead once again. Randy McDonald gets underneath Claude Leclerc. He reassumes the number 2 spot. McDonald and Leclerc have swapped positions 4 times in this segment alone.
And right now, Randy McDonald is going right after Russ Erlin in that Chevrolet.
The question is Cabana trying to make his way from the back of the field. He is passing cars at the rear, and unofficially now he has done it again. The amazing Jean-Paul Cabana has picked off enough cars. He is close enough now to Dave Dion that unofficially he has got the overall title in hand if he can hang on. There he is, just 2 spots behind Dave Dion in the 5A.
Dave, you asked before how many lives this cat has. Well, he's got to have more than 9. He's been down so many times, I don't know, but he's like Jason. He keeps getting back up, and he comes at him.
Well, there's the battle right there for the lead. Russ Erlin, the overall leader right now in segment number 3. Randy McDonald in second, and this is an important time for Erlin, because if he can win this segment, it'll catapult him back up into the top 5 and give him the overall GM Motorsport Stock Car Series lead at the end of this race.
Junior Hanley had the lead, but he left this race a long time ago. If Erlin can hang on, he will definitely move into the overall lead.
Coming down, Russ Erlin, Randy McDonald, and Claude Leclerc. Less than 2 laps to go as they come across the line this time. The white flag is out. Final time around for Erlin. Erlin, McDonald, leading it down the back straightaway toward the tri-oval. Randy McDonald broad sliding it, trying to take a look underneath Russ Erlin. Heading for the final corner. Erlin drifting high, coming across the line. He wins it. McDonald getting sideways across the line, and he spins the car. Claude Leclerc has to stop Cabana right into the back end of Dave Dion. There's Gord Bennett's car number 67. The race is over, and we've got another sliding, spinning accident in turn number 1.
Randy McDonald lost it just after crossing the finish line, but no serious incidents. They're going to drive onto the pits. Russ Erlin wins the battle, but Jean-Paul Cabana wins the war.
Erlin coming down to the start-finish line has made an amazing comeback. After that 26th place finish in segment number 1, he wins segment number 2, and now the 150-lap finale. Russ Erlin will carry the checkered flag, but the grand old man of Quebec stock car racing, Jean-Paul Cabana, picks up the overall win, his 496th feature win lifetime.
Here's a look at McDonald at the start-finish line now. He's moving sideways. He's going to lose it right here. A good job by Claude Leclerc to avoid hitting McDonald as he spins across the line. Leclerc spins, then the rest of the traffic comes through. They all managed to miss McDonald, who lost it coming over that line.
That's an anxious moment for Randy McDonald because he had a good view of that outside concrete wall as he came fishtailing down toward turn number 1. Now look, Gord Bennett, Bill Zardo, they split the difference. Bennett spins. There's Dave Dion in the orange and white Ford, and right behind him, Jean-Paul Cabana. Look at the cars making their way through. The yellow car of Donald Thage does a good bit of dodging down on the inside rail, and somehow, after all that spinning, nobody makes contact in turn number 1.
That's amazing. So here are the standings of race number 3. Russ Erlin wins it, and here's George Como standing by in victory lane.
One bad segment and this thing can really do you in, but you came back strong.
Well, you know, can't run on 3 tires, and with a couple laps to go, and it was a one-lane racetrack in that first race, and I tried to run Dion into the wall and cut off his lane, and he didn't want to give it to me, and it was his lane, and I tried to take it, and I ended up cutting down a left rear tire, so it was my fault that I didn't win the series. I'm happy with 2 first places, and the one did not finish, but I had a great day, and it's a great racetrack, and there's a whole bunch of real nice fans up there. I'm glad to see everybody come out, and I think General Motors got one heck of a good show, and I hope CTV keeps along with this program, and I think it's going to really all work together fine for the people up in the stands.
And there are the overall standings. Cabana wins it. Kevin LePage comes from nowhere to finish 3rd.
Here are the second 5. Jeff Stevens, despite the crash, finishes up in 7th. Paul Richardson, in a borrowed ride, finishes 9th overall.
And tears of joy from victory lane after 496 feature wins. Obviously, this one means something special.
Monsieur Cabana, congratulations.
Thank you.
Before we get to celebrating, let's talk about the 3rd segment. You came in a couple of times. What were the problems?
Yeah, we tried one set of tire yesterday, you know, and I know I don't like that set. The reason the tire on the left side don't work good. And I want to finish the 3rd segment with that set of tire, but I think we make a bad move a little, but I win. That's so important. You know, I count all the time. I count how many points we have difference with the other guy, and you know, sometimes there's a bad luck of somebody, there's a luck of another guy, and just one guy I need to follow. That's 29. That's what I make.
Very frustrating season so far coming into today. What does this mean, getting this win?
Yes, I think. When today I tell you that's something for me. That's long time I don't win, and I think I have the better crew. I have the best crew, you know, for win that race.
And winning in Quebec, you're
yeah, that's important, and now it's possible to make 4 races more, and I finish by 500 this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
A very pleased Jean-Paul Cabana. Russ Erlin finishes 4th on the day, and that vaults him into 1st place overall in the GM Motorsport standings ahead of Junior Hanley.
Well, it was a great day of racing in the province of Quebec, a super run for the St-Felicien fans, and a very happy and a very emotional victor, Jean-Paul Cabana.
Cabana, the 55-year-old veteran, wins it with an outstanding performance in that 3rd and final segment. He takes the overall checkered flag. And a great job today by the independent Kevin LePage, who drives consistently all day long, and he finishes 3rd. Russ Erlin takes 2 segments. He moves into the GM Motorsports lead. A great day of racing from St-Felicien. For Dave Moody and George Como, I'm Joe Tilley, inviting you to join us next time when we head to Saint Air, Canada's fastest speedway, for the Coors 200.